All right, here we go.
The entire story. The secret treaty between the U.S. government and the aliens, of exchanges of technology between us and the aliens, of battles between aliens and American armed forces, and of aliens allegedly having implanted hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of human beings for the purpose of taking over the world and using us as cattle or slaves, came about as a result of the disinformation process. I know because I was in a position to observe much of this process as it unfolded, and I was providing regular reports on its effectiveness to some of the very people who were doing it, Paul.
There wasn't a whole lot that we did. It was just a simple, really, really simple nod.
Okay. All right, so this is interesting. I'd never heard of this movie before called documentary, whatever you call it, called Mirage Man. It was apparently released in 2014, came out in YouTube movies in 2019. And, basically, it talks about, there's a lot of testimony from different people who um, are explaining how the UFO movement came about, how it first started as a an idea to cover up U.S. technology, and then uh, somebody got crazy about it and claimed and actually believed that there were UFO aliens out on this Air Force base, and so instead of uh, correcting that person, they went on a sort of a mission to further his belief and to, uh, you know, pretty, in a sense, promote the idea, even though it was obviously not true. And so I don't know if you're interested in this sort of stuff, but boy, I've only watched 45 minutes of this, and so far it's pretty good. Uh, Very interesting information in it for sure. And I just happened to stumble across it. I was looking for a movie. I thought I'd watch some dumb comedy movie, and I saw Mirage Man. I thought, well, maybe, what is this? I kind of thought it was about magic, and I don't like magic movies, but the cover of the movie did not appear to be like magic, and so I just by chance clicked on it, and uh, and then I saw this Area 51 thing. I thought, what in the world is going on? And so I watched 45 minutes of it. And it's not funny, uh, really, so much, but it was very interesting. So I'll watch the rest of it later. Um, but so this reminds me of another fella, Bill Cooper, William Cooper. I don't know if you know who that is, but he used to be uh, ufologist. He used to believe that there were UFO aliens, and he would speak at these seminars and so on. And he would talk about how he was shown U.S. government documents that suggest there is UFO uh, interactions going on between the Navy and these extraterrestrials. So um, he then later on sort of recanted or whatever. He said that he believed he was shown these documents and told never to talk about them, with the expectation that he would go out and talk about them. And so he no longer believed in UFO aliens. So it's kind of an interesting 180 that he did there. And this documentary, from what I've seen so far, suggests uh, very similar things were going on with other people. They were shown, certain people were shown documentation supporting the idea of UFO aliens and UFO technology, and then told not to talk about it. And so some people would go even further with their, you know, uh, with their research on UFOs and so on, believing that they actually do exist. And obviously they don't. And for me, of course, I used to believe in UFO aliens as well. It's logical. If you evolved from a monkey and you believe that you are now a super monkey, and your hope is that you will evolve into a green little man and live on the planet Mars. That's the logical succession or the logical conclusion that you would draw if you believe that you are a super monkey. It makes sense, right? So if there's, Earth is a planet, and then you look up in the sky and you imagine that there are other planets with other life, and that different planets are evolving at different rates and different periods and so on and so forth. And if we can just make a connection with the one planet that has figured out the secrets of life and how to avoid death, boy, that would be great. Well, I mean, that was should be, if that was true, that should be our focus. And so that's where I was as a teenager and as a young 20-year-old. I thought we have to stop fooling around with this idea of the Bible and going to church and that sort of stuff. We got to focus all of our attention on the space program, and we've got to get to this planet that has the secrets of everlasting life. That's that was my mindset back as a young man. Of course, I come to find out that that was all nonsense, but it is logical. But it's based on an assumption that's not true. Okay, so I mean, it's all very interesting. Uh, in this particular documentary, they uh, they go over some of the things that they were doing to fool people. In regards to uh, uh, UFO crashes, the 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 what was that? The I don't know, the autopsy on UFO aliens, the cattle mutilations, people being abducted by aliens, that those sorts of things. All the stories that we used to hear, and they probably still talk about them, like on shows like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that. And I used to be a big fan of Ancient Aliens. I thought, man, this is fascinating stuff, and they would show really interesting, uh, you know, archaeology or whatever, these monuments and so on and so forth, and um, evidence of advanced technology, if you will. It's it's really it's evidence of uh, people from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. All right, so I mean, like you take a look at Joseph's tomb, uh, and you see over there in Egypt, you see how wonderful and how incredible that whole complex is, and and you see that there are no bones found in the tomb, and so on and so forth. And so these guys, the ancient aliens guys, will take this and say this is advanced technology. Well, all it is really that particular complex is evidence of the Bible. The Bible's true. So I mean, you figure 3,000 years ago, these guys were not sitting around playing Nintendo and PlayStation and Atari and all those sorts of things. I don't know what they were doing, but I think the focus of life was different than what we see going on today, and so the desire to build these stone complexes was uh, a way of life, you know, that is different than what we are uh, experiencing today. And just because their life was different doesn't mean that that's advanced technology and that they're evidence of UFOs from Mars. coming down and building these things with laser beams. The idea is ridiculous, but what I love about this Mirage Man, it shows that the whole thing was perpetrated by the government. So this whole idea of UFO aliens is nonsense. Okay, there are not UFO aliens. If you read the Bible, there are no UFO aliens, period. I know that people want to make these angels out to be UFO aliens. They are not. Angels are spirits. They're not beings. They don't procreate. They don't reproduce. They're not at all creatures. They are spirits. And they're definitely not UFO aliens. They're not living on other planets. I know that's what the Mormons probably believe, but that's not the truth. All right? And so we can forget about this idea that UFO aliens came down and had sex with women. It never happened. Angels don't have sex. UFO aliens don't exist. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. What people will go to extremes in complete denial uh, of, you know, they want to hold on to this belief that there are UFO aliens. And I've even heard people say um, that, okay, there are not UFO aliens. They're not UFO aliens, they're fallen angels. Well, the problem is there are, these things don't exist at all. All the stories that you've ever heard were false. They're in the videos that you see little lights. And this video explains it. The light orbs and the pulsations and this and that. It's all trickery. All right? It's all an illusion. It does not happen. It does not exist. There is not any sort of technology out there that came from another world. And there just has absolutely no UFO aliens. There are not. They are not fallen angels. If UFO aliens don't exist, then your idea of fallen angels is way off. Okay. So, anyways, it's interesting the extremes people will go to hold on to this belief that there are green little men in the sky. And I think that all started with a comic book about 100 years ago. I'm not really sure, but boy, people fell for it hook, line, and sinker. All right, so I'm not sure there's much more I could add to it. The Bill Cooper thing is interesting here. I do a search Bill Cooper UFO. 10 years ago, I do Bill Cooper UFO. I get 100 videos with actually Bill Cooper talking about UFOs. Now I do it, I get Dr. William Cooper talking about environmental issues, government's political stuff. What is this nonsense? No, he's got 2,800 views though, so that's priority. I mean, they've really tightened the screws there at YouTube, haven't they? The future of water. Bill Cooper at a TED conference. Is this the same guy? I wonder. Talking about water. Oh boy, the future of water. Now here we got conspiracy theorists who predicted his own death. Tells from the bottle. Tells from the bottle of booze. What is that? I'm not sure what that is, but uh, like I said, this guy Bill Cooper, he once spoke on the idea that UFO aliens were real, and that he was shown documentation and evidences that they were real. And then, uh, in my opinion, he showed that he's a very bright man because finally came to the conclusion that what he was shown was an attempt to get him to go talk about this sort of thing and to promote the idea. And he concluded that they don't exist, and that there's inside government disinformation program, and obviously, and that's what this Mirage Men exposes really is the not just that there was a different disinformation program, but how they were doing it and the people that were involved with it. Yeah, so it's interesting, in my opinion. All right, so this Barack Obama, I don't know what this has to do with Bill Cooper, but apparently, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can't find a video anymore. So uh, it's all very interesting stuff. And then, of course, um, I guess there was another thing I wanted to share when we talk about Matthew 24. Um, there shall arise false Christ and false prophets, and they shall show signs and great wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And so this could apply to a lot of things, great signs and wonders. You know, you could apply this to, I think it would be fair to apply it to the moon missions of 69 to 72, uh, showing great wonders for sure. And so all these miracles and wonders and signs and so on and so forth are illusions. They're mirages. These are like magic tricks, if you will, right? And this says, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And this does not mean that, well, if you are of the elect, you can't be deceived. I've heard people say that, and that's ridiculous. You telling me that once you're chosen, once you're born of God, you're not deceived by anything? You know everything that there is. That's what you're saying. That you know it all the moment you're born of the Spirit of God, and that you can't be deceived in any way. And so obviously, I would say, all right, let's take you and somebody else that's also born of the Spirit of God. Now let's see if you two agree on all points. Because if you don't agree on all points, then there's a contradiction. That means somebody's fooled, and somebody might have the truth. It might be that you're both fooled. It might be that you've both been deceived. But to say that if you are the elect, you can't be deceived, that's nonsense. This is speaking specifically of these false Christs and false prophets showing great signs and wonders, and that they're going to deceive you if it's possible. If there's a possible way to deceive you, they're going to deceive you. So they're trying to deceive you from every possible angle and see. It's like throwing mud on the wall and see what sticks. All right, they're trying to deceive you. All right, so and then of course, well, I'm going to give another example of uh, a different kind of miracle or a different kind of mirage, if you will, a sign that there's this Saint Benedict. Okay, he's a Catholic priest. All right, obviously, the whole thing is they call these guys saints, and they're devils, right? I mean, they're not saints at all. The people that believe in Jesus Christ, those of us that believe in Jesus Christ, we're the saints. But they want to present themselves as the saints. And of course, I think they have a rule they can't be uh, labeled a saint until after they're dead, and the Catholic priest at Vatican City vote on it or something like that. I think it's some nonsense. It's not Catholic priests who are dictating who the saints are, it's Jesus Christ in heaven uh, making that decision. We don't make that decision. But anyway, so this guy apparently somebody tried to poison him, poison bread, and when he prayed a blessing over the bread, a raven swept in and took the loaf away. So now this was supposed to be a miracle. And I would compare that miracle with the miracles of Jesus Christ. Obviously, this one pales. This one falls way short. Okay, but they call this a miracle. And so what they probably did is they probably had a bird trained to swoop down and take a piece of bread. That's what I would think. If that's even if that even happened, you could probably do that 5 times a day with a bird, right? Birds can be trained, and that's probably what they did. That the magicians in Egypt during the time of Moses, they could perform greater miracles than what these guys are doing. They could perform greater tricks than what these guys are doing. But it's just I just want to share that example. Um, this idea that there are people going out there and deceiving others. It's not a new idea. It's been going on uh, for a long time now. So I'm not sure that there's more I could add to this, right? So, if you want to talk about this particular issue, this particular video, I would welcome that. Um, there's not a whole lot as far as, you're not going to see a whole bunch of UFO aliens in this um, documentary, but it's just a lot of testimony and so on and so forth. Very interesting stuff, but it's an example of how people have been deceived on this particular issue. There are no UFO aliens. There never has been. And like, here we go. Look at this. See that? You see a light, and assuming that's real, how can you look at that light and say, "Oh, that's from Mars"? See, that proves there are UFO aliens. There are UFOs, aliens from outer space. Because this right there, that's what you think. Are you kidding me? Well, that's what I used to think too, because I wanted to believe it was true, and I would see something like this. Oh, we don't have technology like that. Uh, just so you know exactly uh, what we're capable of, and you know all that there is to know, and you've concluded, oh, we can't do that. We don't have anybody in the government that has the ability to do that. Come on, man. Well, that's what I used to think too. And then I realized, you know what? We've been fooled. What's that? Uh, Who song? I won't get fooled again. Well, I got fooled again and again and again, but doggone it, I don't want to get fooled no more. All right, so that's enough talking uh, for now. So I got a new recording thing, and it appears I can go over 10 minutes, and that's probably not a good thing. Probably better that I keep my dumb speeches to 10 minutes, but now it looks like I can go 20 some minutes. Watch out. We'll see if this works.